Africa is the world's second largest and second most populous continent after Asia and is the heart of scientific discoveries and innovations which change the way scientists look at the origins of mankind. With every passing day, there are new findings in the regions that cannot be explained but are fascinating yet terrifying at the same time. Here are 15 unsettling discoveries in Africa no one can explain. Number 15. The Sacred Crocodiles of Bazule. Crocodiles are often seen as vile creatures you don't want to mess around with. But in a small village in Burkina Faso, it is not unusual to see someone sitting atop the fearsome reptiles. People in Bazule, around 30 kilometers from the capital, Ouagadougou, share their pond with more than 100 of the razor-toothed creatures. According to the legend, the village was amidst an agonizing drought when the crocodiles led women to a hidden pond where the population could slake their thirst. Not only do the reptiles represent the soul of the village, but if one of the crocodiles dies, they are buried and even given a funeral as if they were humans. The people of Burkina Faso also believe that if something bad is going to happen, the crocodiles cry out loudly and the elders have to interpret the cries and make wishes to ward off bad luck. The unique and disbelieving connection between humans and crocodiles has attracted a lot of tourists from around the world to the small village and has been a big money-making source. Unfortunately, due to global warming, the famous pond known as these creatures' home is shrinking and has left us to think that these reptiles will once more guide their human friends to a new watery home. Number 14. A new human species. Human evolution has many gaps and mysteries that have been a puzzle for scientists for quite some time. Back in 2013, a bounty of fossils was discovered deep in a South African cave that hinted toward the existence of an entirely new species with a surprising combination of features belonging to the genus Homo. The discovery of hundreds of Homo naledi fossils was the largest find ever made on the African continent, and it opened a wide array of fascinating possibilities. The fossils displayed a unique mix of modern and archaic traits and shook the understanding of the origins and diversity of the human lineage. Cavers discovered the first Homo naledi fossils in a remote, almost inaccessible chamber deep within the Rising Star cave system near Johannesburg. Some other fossils were found in the second chamber called Lesedi, which displayed a unique combination of human and non-human traits. The tiny-brained species had shoulders, a torso like an ape's, and some unshakably human-like features. They were found to be 236,000 and 335,000 years old, with hands, wrists, and feet very similar to those of modern humans. The Homo naledi's anatomy further suggested that they walked on two legs with a modern gait and an efficient long-distance stride. Their shoulder position and shape of their fingers would have helped them climb and hang from trees and could be traits retained from a more ape-like ancestor. Since the discovery of this new human species, many questions have arisen, like how their remains got to their final resting place, how the Homo naledi survived against the bigger-brained competitors, and whether they were our most recent ancestor instead of Homo erectus. The discovery of Homo naledi is a very unique finding and has heated the debate on human evolution, opening a wide range of possibilities about the origin of Homo and modern human beings. Number 13. The Erie Lake Natron. If you look at this lake Natron in Tanzania, you'll be impressed by its beautiful red and pink hues. But there is more to this lake than what simply meets the eye. Located close to the Kenyan border, Lake Natron is fed by some springs that are rich in minerals, making the lake highly alkaline, reaching a pH of 9 to 10.5. The water in this lake is so caustic that it can burn the skin and eyes of animals that aren't adapted to it. The shallow lake's water temperature can reach 140 degrees Fahrenheit and is salty enough to poison most animals. During the time when there isn't much rain, the lake's water level decreases, revealing salt islands on which birds build nests. Animals that die in the lake are turned into statues through calcification. While the exact reason for the death of animals is unknown, one of the widely accepted theories is that the reflective nature of the surface of the water is confusing to the birds who crash into the lake, and then the extreme sodium bicarbonate content, which was once used in Egyptian mummification, preserves them perfectly, making them look like statues. You can see the creatures who get caught in what seems to be a deadly trap set especially for them, perfectly preserved and placed in living positions, photographed by Brandt. And what Brandt has captured is much more terrifying than it is beautiful. The alkaline water of the lake also supports a thriving ecosystem of salt marshes, freshwater wetlands, flamingos and other wetland birds, tilapia, and the algae on which large flocks of flamingos feed. But no matter how fascinating and visually appealing this lake looks, it is scary to see all those dead animals calcified on the surface. Number 12. The fascinating alien sky blue stone. Archaeologists have discovered a wide variety of unique and fascinating stones in the past, but the discovery of these blue stones was rather unique. In 1990, Angelo Piton, an archaeologist and geologist, came across some bluish stones that were believed to be actual beings that once lived in the sky and were cast into stones by God because of their wrongdoings and thrown to earth to remain buried beneath its soil. The alien stones were studied by researchers in Rome, Germany, and Tokyo and were found to be made up of 70% oxygen, 20% carbon and lime, along with traces of silicon and other materials. The composition of the sky stone revealed they were similar to a kind of concrete or stucco and seemed to have been artificially colored. Researchers concluded that the stone was different from any other stone found on Earth, probably originating outside the planet and arriving on the planet between 2,500 and 17,000 years ago. There are different theories regarding the Stone of Heaven. Some people say it was produced by an unknown, highly advanced civilization lost in time, while others call it kryptonite and believe it belongs to some unknown planet outside of the Earth. While the exact origin of the sky stone is unknown, it is a very different kind of gemstone from the ones previously known to man and is definitely an odd discovery. Number 11. Seven-colored Earth of Chamarel. Rainbow colors in the sky may be common, but in Africa you can find all 7 colors of the rainbow coexisting in a small patch of land in Mauritius. The 7-colored Earths in Mauritius is a rare geological oddity that proves brown is far from the only color of dirt. Surrounded by forests and spreading out in 7 distinct colors from red, brown, violet, green, blue, purple, and yellow, these psychedelic dunes were formed due to a rare confluence of volcanic activity, which brought a number of different elements together, each with their own distinct hue. The beautiful colors of the sand dunes attract tourists from all parts of the world, but how they are able to retain their separate shades when mixed together and avoid erosion despite Mauritius's heavy and frequent rains are the mysteries the scientists are still trying to solve. The colored Earth of Chamarel has become one of Mauritius's main tourist attractions and has increased the beauty of the island by tenfold. But the visitors are not allowed to climb on the dunes, and a wooden fence is placed so they can look at the scenery from the observation outpost placed along it. The 7 colored Earths is undoubtedly one of the prettiest and most fascinating phenomena and is intriguing to look at. Number 10. Underwater waterfall illusion. If you're a traveler, you would have seen all kinds of waterfalls, from the world-renowned Niagara Falls to the fleeting, spectacular so-called Firefall in Yosemite National Park. But there are high chances you haven't seen an underwater waterfall that appears to be a waterfall submerged in the ocean itself. Mauritius took the world by storm with the fascinating discovery of an underwater waterfall. Just to be clear, it isn't an actual waterfall but rather an illusion which can only be seen from up top. Mauritius is a relatively young island and it happens to sit on an ocean shelf raised above seabed level. From the island shore there is a gradual slope leading out to a sudden 2.5-mile drop to the ocean floor. Thanks to this marine topography, various shades of blue are visible due to the movement of sand and silt deposits along these slopes. The waterfall is actually an optical illusion formed by sand and silt deposits sliding down the slope and then dropping into the abyss. The sand and silt run off in a way that makes it look like they're pouring down a waterfall or like the entire island is being sucked down a vast drain. It is challenging to capture this beautiful illusion from the shore, but if you go above, you can see what appears to be the flowing water. The tourists are given helicopter tours to help them see this spectacular effect that is breathtaking indeed. Number 9. The Namibian Fairy Circles. The strange circles that dot the Namib Desert in southern Africa have been the center of attention for scientists for over a decade. The empty patches known as fairy circles are regularly placed barren circles with patches of vegetation surrounding them for hundreds of miles. The whole landscape looks like a polka dot dress. According to the local legend, they were created by gods who left behind their footprints on the red earth. But the formation of the fairy circles has more to do with math and biology than folklore. Biologists and mathematicians have grappled over the mystery of the Namibian fairy circles for decades, proposing various mechanisms responsible for the strange pattern. After years of study, scientists have come up with two main hypotheses. According to one hypothesis, the Namib Desert is very arid, the water is very limited, so the plants have to compete for their survival. As vegetation expands and thrives into a patch, smaller plants nearby cannot get the water necessary to survive. The amount of vegetation thins or disappears at the edges of the patch, forming regular distance gaps. While this theory of competing plants fits beautifully if you look at the satellite image, however, if you go underground, you will find a termite colony under each circle, which has made the biologists propose that plant competition and termite colonies could both independently create the circles, but only when combined together could the researchers create the entirety of the landscape. As you can see, these patterns are not just beautiful, but they convey something meaningful, and they might tell us something about the ecosystem's health and how it functions in the near future. But up until now, scientists have no definite theory to explain the barren circles with vegetation on edge, and it is a work in progress. Number 8. The fantasy coffins. Death is perceived differently by different people, but the fantasy coffin makers in Africa have made something quite remarkable out of it. What makes the coffin makers so different is that they produce caskets in the form of ships, buildings, animals, cars, and much more for the people who believe that life transcends death and that the deceased will continue with his or her profession in the afterlife. The idea behind the coffins is that when the dead are buried in something that represents the job they did while they were alive, they will remember where they come from and what they have left behind. And making fantasy coffins is a serious business in Ghana, where international clients are charged from $5,000 to $15,000 per coffin, while the locals are charged up to $1,000. The Ghanaian community believes in the afterlife and these customized coffins, delivering them to a new beginning. This has become a booming business for over 50 years now. The idea of having uniquely designed caskets to ease the beginning in the afterlife may be a little unsettling, but it is a widely accepted practice in Africa. It is undoubtedly a profitable one too. Number 7. 3.7 million-year-old human ancestor footprint. A staggering discovery of a 3.7 million years old human ancestor footprint was made in Tanzania, which caught the attention of many scientists around the globe. The 10 inches long footprint suggested that an unknown species walked on two legs across a blanket of volcanic ash in what's now northern Tanzania. The volcanic ash immortalized the steps and gradually turned them into a rock that was mistaken and dismissed for looking like a bear's footprint in the start. But after careful studying of the footprint for several years, it was revealed that the tracks were left by some unknown early human species strolling around that spot at the same time as another hominin species. According to the researchers, the feet must have had a relatively large big toe. Also, the walking pattern preserved in the tracks showed a kind of cross step, with the foot crossing in front of the midline of the body, which some people do while walking over uneven surfaces or while regaining their balance. While scientists are sure that a bear did not leave behind the 3.7 million years old footprint, they still do not have much information about to whom the print belongs. But one thing that the footprints have led to is the possibility of multiple hominins coexisting at the same time, and much more is yet to be discovered about the human lineage. Number 6. The City of Stones. You may have heard about the City of Lights, the City of Love, and the City of Gold, but in Africa you can find the fascinating City of Stones near modern-day Masvingo, Zimbabwe. The City of Stones was inhabited by the Shona people from the 11th to the 15th century, but was later abandoned due to unknown reasons. The word Zimbabwe itself is a Shona name, which means stone houses. The ruins of the City of Stones contain numerous stone enclosures with soaring walls as tall as 11 meters. It is very interesting to wonder that, like the ancient pyramids, the stone walls and monuments were also made without the use of mortar, which is something we should give our ancestors credit for. The earliest written records for the city date to the 16th century, and a time after it was largely abandoned, but we know some things like the city was the capital of the Kingdom of Zimbabwe, which was a Shona trading empire. Also, the historical site consisted of many sections, including the Hill Complex, a series of structural ruins that sat atop the steepest hill of the site and were used as a religious center. The ruins also contained the Great Enclosure, a walled circular area below the hill complex dating to the 14th century. and the city ruins have valley ruins that suggest that almost 10,000 to 20,000 people made their houses from mud brick. UNESCO listed the ruins of Great Zimbabwe as a World Heritage Site in 1986, but when Europeans originally visited the site, they looted the place and claimed that the city was too sophisticated to be built by African people, was built by Phoenicians or other non-African people. Despite their claims, the legacy of Great Zimbabwe lives on as one of Africa's largest and most culturally important archaeological sites and is very interesting to look at. Number 5. Lady Jaw. For decades, science has been searching for African fossils documenting the earliest phases of the Homo lineage, but were able to find very few specimens from the critical time interval between 3 and 2.5 million years ago. The discovery of the 2.8 million years old Lady Jaw provided a new and fascinating piece of the puzzle in the evolutionary lineage. The Lady Jaw was discovered in 2013 by an international team led by Arizona State University scientists and was said to belong to the earliest humans that gave rise to modern human beings. The careful analysis of the jaw revealed it had advanced features like slim molars, symmetrical premolars, and an evenly proportioned jaw like us, but the primitive, sloping chin of an ape. While much information is not available about the time period of the first human jaw, it has pushed back the family tree of our ancestors by thousands of years and has given hope to scientists about learning more about human evolution. Number 4. The mystery spheres. The mysterious metal spheres, known as Clarksdorp spheres, have been the subject of much attention and speculation by various fringe groups, including Christian and Hindu creationists. These dark reddish-brown, somewhat flattened spheres range in size from less than a centimeter to 10 centimeters across, and some of them have 3 parallel grooves running around the equator. These metallic objects have been dated to 3 billion years old, a time when the Earth was too young to host intelligent life capable of creating these spheres. These objects claim to provide evidence suggesting intelligent beings' presence well before humans were supposed to exist. Some people also suggest they were formed of the same phenomenon found across the Earth, concretion, where clay, silt, or some flexible material fills in the gap between layers of minerals. Over time, the stone appears to shrink into a curved shape, and the lines across the surface form naturally. While there is a lot of controversy about the mystery spheres, they are still an interesting discovery. Number 3. Eye of Sahara. The Blue Eye of the Sahara, also known as the Richat structure, is a geological formation in the Sahara Desert that resembles an enormous bullseye. The formation stretches across a 40-kilometer-wide region of the desert in the nation of Mauritania. For centuries, only a few nomadic tribes knew about its existence, and it was photographed for the first time in the 1960s by the Gemini astronauts, who used it as a landmark to track the progress of their landing sequences. Geologists originally believed the Eye of the Sahara was an impact crater created when an object from space slammed into the surface. However, lengthy studies of the rocks inside the structure show that its origins are entirely Earth-based. The Eye of the Sahara is a geologic dome containing rocks at least 100 million years old. It is possible that, in the distant future, the Eye of the Sahara will be inundated with sand and dust, and travelers may find only a windswept desert burying one of the most striking geological features on the planet. Number 2. Giraffe with a crooked neck. Jimena, the Santa Barbara Zoo giraffe, known around the world for its crooked neck, attracted the attention of people from around the globe. There were plenty of urban legends surrounding Jimena's crooked neck, from the scandalous charges that she was once dropped on her head by the wranglers who took her from the African plains, to the more biological rumors that she came out of the womb that way. But the true story, according to the Santa Barbara Zoo, is that the giraffe was born normally at the San Diego Wild Animal Park and started developing the kink in her neck after she came to Santa Barbara. The crooked neck didn't cause any pain to Jimena, and it was more related to the unstable joints caused by benign bony growth. Jimena is definitely interesting to look at, but sadly, she died at the age of 21 due to an unknown illness. Number 1. The White Lady of Africa. The White Lady is a rock painting located on a panel on a small rock overhang deep within Brandberg Mountain and has long been an archaeological dilemma. In 1917, a German geologist named Reinhard Mark was exploring the Brandberg when he took refuge in a rock shelter and found a painted panel above him. The painting portrays several human figures as well as oryxes on a rock panel in which the White Lady is the most detailed human figure in the group. Apart from her, the other human figures have less detail and are mostly completely black or completely white. The frieze appears to have spiritual significance, as several animals have human hind legs or human faces, conveying the merging of worlds as the healer enters into a trance in the spiritual world to bring healing and request rain and abundant rain game for his people. The painting was probably made of ochre, charcoal, manganese, and hematite, with blood serum, egg white, and casein used as binding agents. The rock paintings are estimated to be approximately 1,000 to 2,000 years old. While much is not known about the painting and its origin, it is still a unique discovery.